All right, we got our viewers prepared. All right. Let's get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to I am your host, Tyrone Bridges. Let's get it.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to I Thought You Knew. I am your host, Tyrone Bridges, and we have a very, very special guest on our show today. A very, very wonderful young lady that is running for Ann Arbor City Council, Ward 4.
Yep, that's right.
Elizabeth Nelson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
All righty. All right, we'd like to get down to business right away, so we won't keep everybody waiting. I did the introduction. Go ahead and tell everybody about you and tell everybody why you're running.
Thanks. So my name is Elizabeth Nelson, obviously. I was elected to Ann Arbor City Council in 2018. My background is I grew up outside of Chicago. I went to school out east, and I've lived in Ann Arbor since 2004. I have a law degree. I never practiced law, but it informs how I approach issues. I was home with my kids for a while. I went back to school 6 years ago and got my certification to teach. I teach preschool now. And I got elected. I ran for office in 2018 and won this seat on city council because I was paying attention to how city council was discussing issues. And I felt like there was a lot that was happening that was really, really misleading. And I really am passionate about our community understanding what's going on, having the ability to dig into the facts of what's going on and hold us accountable as leaders. In the 4 years that, or 3.5 years that I've been on council, I've seen again and again how big interests, big financial interests are carrying the day. Issues that I have taken up on behalf of residents, I very quickly realize who are the power players who I'm bumping up against, and I have seen the reluctance to stand up to them. I'm running for re-election because I feel like there's a lot of work to do to force our conversations towards policy. A lot of the work that I've done the last 3.5 years is simply public engagement, trying to help residents understand the decisions that council is about to make and showing the community, like, look, this is what happened, and inviting residents to analyze what we're doing and contemplate, like, what are the likely consequences. We often name a goal and does it really match the strategy that we've chosen? I really feel like democracy works better when we are having robust debate about issues. And when that debate isn't happening or that debate is discouraged, I think everybody should be suspicious.
Well, that is definitely true. Name some of the things that you are speaking about, if you can. I know that some candidates can't name some things that could shed some light on the subject. So enlighten us so we could be paying attention as well.
Sure. So a resident brought, as everybody knows, I presume, like, Ann Arbor has so much stuff going on with the University of Michigan that we actually are a center for tourism. A resident brought to me the issue of Airbnb short-term rentals in her neighborhood. And she was pointing out that, she didn't necessarily want to live up the block from 3 unsupervised hotels. So for her, it was a nuisance issue. And when I dug into that issue, I realized it was not just a personal benefit to a neighbor kind of issue. Airbnbs, short-term rentals in communities like Ann Arbor, if it runs rampant, unregulated, it hollows out our housing supply. And basically you have investors who can buy up homes, convert them into these unsupervised hotels, and just make a ton of money. It drives up housing prices, and it means that people who are living here aren't living in neighborhoods, like the neighborhoods that are closest to downtown and closest to the stadium just get hollowed out. It just turns into like tourists in and out. When I brought this issue to council, I quickly found out like the people who were making money here, who were angry that we were going to prevent them from making top dollar on the properties that they had invested in. And when we passed a regulation that would have said no more, none in residential areas. You have to find zoning where it is commercial activities are allowed. If you're going to do a full-time business that's going to literally take a house away from people living in it.
Right.
A new council was elected in 2020, and one of the first things they did was they amended this ordinance to create a loophole and basically give a gift to all the investors who had been screaming at us and saying like, no, we want to make all the money. This is the money that we're making and we don't want to give it up. That loophole was effectively granting a monopoly to all of the people who had established these businesses before we regulated it.
And that's a major problem.
It was terrible. It was really terrible. It was not a good decision. And what I'm learning more and more what a terrible decision it was, because the original version of that ordinance, any resident could have identified on their block that house, nobody's living in that house. It's just people in and out. It is illegal. Well, now we've muddied the waters. So if you see a business on your street, you can't know for sure that it's illegal because maybe it was one of those that was granted permission in the loophole. Maybe it wasn't. You don't know. You have to literally call the city and file a complaint and find out if it's licensed. In my campaigning, I've knocked on a lot of doors. A handful. I've been greeted by somebody who says I'm an Airbnb guest. Now I have direct access to city staff. I can find out, like, do they have a license? Answer is no, they're unlicensed. And so we passed a regulation that had no teeth in it. And the reason that we passed that was basically because we caved to pressure from investors who have enough money to buy extra houses.
So, the members on the board and also its leadership that have their, I call it on the show, their hand in the cookie jar, but it's hurting the people. Mm-hmm. And that loophole is a major problem because we have a lot of problems here in Ypsilanti and also in Ypsilanti Township, just like that as well. Mm-hmm. Let the public know what you are intended to bring as a re-elected council member. And we know that you don't like hidden agendas.
No, I do not.
So go ahead and talk to the public about you and the re-election mission when you get re-elected as a city council member.
What I tell folks is that my agenda is driven by residents. Residents who bring me issues where there's clearly somebody who's vulnerable, there's a power imbalance that there needs to be an intervention. Right now, I see myself as one of the few members of council who's really brave enough to push back when residents bring me an issue and it bumps up against powerful interests. Moving forward, my re-election campaign is about reminding residents of Ward 4 that I have a strong reputation for being responsive. If you have an issue in your neighborhood and big powerful interests are behind the problem that's affecting you, I'm the person who's going to stand up for you. I had student leaders and graduate employees organization leaders at the U of M reach out to me about big challenges they were having in the rental market. And again, I found myself in meetings where I was getting shouted down by landlords, again, the people who have all the power, and I was going to bat for the people who didn't have the power. We passed a regulation to benefit tenants last year. It was a hard fight. People who have worked with me know that I stand up for them. There are plenty of powerful people in this town. They didn't elect me. I'm not getting big donations from PACs or anything like that. I'm all about representing the people who live here, the people who don't feel like they have a voice.
And you're the only one that replied to our request in your ward. You're the
I'm
only
not
one.
surprised by that. I really don't. I don't make calculations of like, is this conversation worth having? If somebody is motivated to reach out to me, I'm interested in hearing what they have to say.
Well, I want to definitely address the other two candidates, not naming names. Look here, other candidates. And I know I've had a lot of them reach out to me today. And I think we pretty much going to go through all of the Ann Arbor City Council candidates. The ones that didn't reach out for Ward 4. This is a different day and age now. We are all watching. We are all trying to find out what's different than the same old thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are not exempt from interviews. You're not exempt from interviews. If you are a public servant, it is your duty to interview. And this is going out to the public. For those who are voters in Ann Arbor Ward 4, please listen. Ms. Nelson's the only one replied. The other two candidates did not say whether one way or the other. And I'm pretty sure by the looks of their names that they are minorities. And that may be an issue for them because as you can see, I'm chocolate is the brown boot. But for them as minorities in Ann Arbor, big money minorities, think that they can ignore a show like this and it doesn't have an effect on their campaign. Let's check you out on August 2nd. It's a different day in town, y'all. We have to elect public servants. We have the same thing here in Washtenaw County, Ypsilanti, Michigan. We got politicians that's been in office, stacking the deck, been in office for decades, stacking the deck, and then want to still come back and try to do things. You didn't do things different when you were here before. And you are supposed to be for the people. You are elected by the people. You're supposed to serve the people. Ms. Nelson got it on right here. She got it on the show today. She wasn't afraid to interview and talk about her campaign. So right quick, I know I'm long-winded. I'd like to ask you, could you please identify the areas roughly? I know Ward 4 is a big area. Could you identify the cross areas, the neighborhoods? Shout out to some neighborhoods. Voters, listen. She's talking about you.
So I live in the northwest part of Ward 4, which is around Almendinger Park. So this is one of the areas that was impacted and continues to be impacted by short-term rentals. And then we have neighborhoods to the south, directly to the south of me, between Stadium and Scioto Church is the Dickon neighborhood. And then south of Scioto Church is the Lawton neighborhood. And these are Dickon and Lawton neighborhoods are two neighborhoods that are going to be greatly impacted by a rather enormous development that was recently approved on Main Street, just across the way behind the golf course. And you know, this was another situation where residents didn't have a voice except for me. There were two reps from Ward 4. The both of us got the same hundreds of emails from residents who were concerned, and one of us voted with the resident concerns and one of us didn't. And then across the Stadium Bridge, I'm getting my exercise biking around the ward. I bike across the Stadium Bridge quite a lot because we have then Lower Burns Park, which is just west of Packard. And this is another neighborhood where investors were buying up properties to turn into short-term rentals. Again, these are inner neighborhoods that are near the stadium, near downtown. And then going down Packard is the eastern boundary of Ward 4. We have a number of neighborhoods going along Packard and then across King George Boulevard and south of Eisenhower. There's yet more neighborhoods in Ward 4. Off Packard, there was a big development that was built, I guess, about 4 years ago. it displaced a strip mall, which the neighborhood quite enjoyed walking to. And like there was a Kroger there were other resources there. It was kind of an old, tired strip mall, but it was redeveloped with the promise to residents, you're going to have retail. The first floor is designed with big windows, tall ceilings. You're going to get retail. That neighborhood has been waiting for 4 years to see any retail that they can walk to. And what ultimately happened was the developer priced rent so high that no one would rent it. They let it sit empty for 4 years to now they have come to the city and said, oh, oopsie, it doesn't work. We would like to convert it to housing because they can make more money at housing. Housing units are where the profit is. And we've seen this this is the first of a couple of places that it's likely to happen. There's I have Ward 4 is Main Street all the way up to Madison. Mm-hmm. And there's another shopping area that was displaced by an apartment building, luxury apartments for U of M students. That also promised retail on the first floor to substitute for the retail that it displaced. It did not materialize. I hear through the grapevine that they're talking about converting that to housing. I mean, what is happening in Ann Arbor is that people are coming in to make money. And we are rolling out the red carpet and we are not asking enough questions. We're not prioritizing the goals that we profess matter. Like we talk all the time about sustainability and how we need to get people out of cars and the magic of having a community where you can walk to a corner store, walk to things that you need. And the promise of these developments with like lots and lots more housing units. Well, first of all, the promise is these housing units are going to make things more affordable, even though all these units are luxury expensive. And then the second promise is once you stack enough people together, then there's commercial. There's enough, you've created such a market that of course there's going to be commercial. Well, I mean, these housing multi-unit buildings have displaced commercial, and then they pretend that they can't sustain commercial. They've added how many hundreds of residents, and then they pretend, oh, we just can't. Well, it was there before. Like now you're saying you've added more people and there's not enough of a market. We really are like letting developers do exactly what they want.
Wow. And somebody's definitely benefiting off of it. We definitely have to push the reset button. These politicians that's in office that's allowing this to happen or supporting this mischief is not helping none of the residents here. You know, we have to reelect people like Ms. Nelson here to actually serve the people and not serve themselves. Ann Arbor, Ypsi's changing. And don't think because I talk a lot about Ypsi that this is an Ypsi show. This is a Michigan show. We cover a lot of things. We find kids that's missing. And I'm Black. You don't find too many Black men out here doing that. But Ann Arbor haven't been too friendly with people like me. The low income, the lower the totem pole, however you want to say it. Can you address that population on how you would think toward serving them as opposed to the richer get richer politicians? And I know you're not a politician, you're a mom.
I think the biggest challenge that we're facing is people in positions like mine who are looking for the next step, who see it as an opportunity to network, who are really just identifying who is the powerful person that I should be rubbing elbows with, and not understanding that our connection is to the residents. Like we're at the bottom rung. The bottom rung, we're not supposed to be looking up. We're supposed to be looking like sideways and down. Like this is my approach to things. I mean, it's one of the reasons that I answered your invitation for this, because these are the conversations that we need to be making an intentional effort around. It's not going to happen automatically. Me going to the grocery store, I'm not going to bump into the people who are really struggling. We just have to make an effort. So every time I've had an opportunity to make connections, I try to take them. So early on in my term, somebody reached out to me and wanted to talk to me about an issue. this is really one of the lovelier things that I feel proud of having helped make happen. A resident reached out to me and said, you know, I ran with a bad crowd in high school and I ended up in prison. And I got out of prison and I put my whole life back together. Went to EMU. I was a student leader. Now we're talking about events in the past. Now he owns a house, got a family, he's all sorted out. But he tells me, you know, like years ago when I was out of prison and I was putting my life back together, I learned that every time I applied for an apartment in Ann Arbor, my application was thrown in the garbage can because I checked a box that said that I had a criminal conviction. They were allowed to ask this question and it didn't matter. It didn't matter my credit history. It didn't matter my good paying job. None of it mattered. I was horrified to learn about this. This is not in my experience. And I need to learn from people who have experiences to share that I wouldn't, anyway. So I brought this issue to the Human Rights Commission. It worked through our legal department and we passed an ordinance banning that kind of discrimination. Another resident came to me and shared her observations in our Parks Department. I connected her. We had meetings together with the head of our HR department, the city administrator. She was ultimately sort of dismissed by leaders in our administration and her complaints were not taken very seriously. But it was really upsetting to me to realize that people, like a resident in our community, was seeing racial bias, was seeing discrimination, was seeing opportunities where we weren't as inclusive as we should be. She was participating in parks programs that I'm not a part of, and I wouldn't share her experience because I look the way that I do. I think a lot of what we need to demand from local electeds is a commitment to people, not this idea of like, who's the important person I need to be allied with. I will say, one of my opponents is boasting about her coalition of 20 other elected leaders that she's built. And I'm thinking, I don't care. I really don't care. Some of the elected leaders that she's proud to have been endorsed by are not people we even work with on city council. The people you're working with on city council are the residents. I wonder sometimes if people even understand what these local offices are about, because these local, my email box is about 75% residents reaching out to me wanting somebody to pay attention to some things that are going on in their neighborhoods, wanting to pay attention to challenges they're having navigating our city bureaucracy, to the extent that any of those concerns are sensitive and related to like really difficult issues like race and bias. I mean, these are the things that we need to be listening really hard to.
They definitely don't understand because obviously most of the candidates that are running don't understand how it works when you don't serve your poorest people. And a lot of candidates won't hear the real from me either unless they come on the show. Let me give them a quick lesson. And I'm going to tell you this from my 52-year-old walk of life. I've been here, done that. When you people who call yourself high echelons, the money makers, let me give you a quick tidbit. Your kids got to go to some of these damn public schools. And let me talk to you from the heart, because I came from them neighborhoods that come get your kids and put them kids in the body bag. Your kids got to come to some of these schools where you going to reap what you sow. And let me explain. Biblically, in the Quran, all throughout our good books that leads us the way our God wants us to move. You have to honor the youngest, the lowest, the poorest amongst you. You must serve them. or God's wrath is going to come on you. And I mean, the public wrath might come on you too, maybe not intended, but we call it karma. We call it karma. You're lining your pockets up with all these big developers, rubbing elbows with all these people who don't make no differences. They make a difference in your pocket, but the consequence and the wrath of God is very powerful. All I'm saying, and all of the judges and all the law enforcement know me very much. Your kids might pay the ultimate price for your lack of what you do for the poorest amongst you in your city that you serve. I hope you take my message, rewind it, play it back and forth, play it for your kids. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I fear for your children if you don't have the heart to serve the public. You can't private school your kids out of danger. Look how many kids we losing over in Ypsilanti. Had a boy got shot and killed yesterday, 4 p.m. in the afternoon, in front of kids. I'm just trying to tell you, I'm sorry for being so long-winded, but a lot of the elected officials, a lot of the foreigners, a lot of the minorities that don't look back on the minorities that they so-called serve, don't let God's wrath happen to none of your children because you're not paying attention to the lowest of the low in your community. Read between the lines if you don't understand where I'm coming from. If you have friends that can interpret what I'm saying, do that. Elected officials, we have to change the page. You have to serve your constituents. Ms. Nelson, please tell them about your campaign and how to support you, how to join you on re-electing you, because a lot of them talking loud right now and they ain't saying nothing. But we hear you on this show.
I appreciate that. Well, you can visit my website. And if you have, and it's at a2elnel.com, poke around. Lately I've been directing people to my endorsement page. I have endorsements from residents who've worked directly with me. The Graduate Employees Organization that worked directly with me in crafting policy and bumping up against financial interests in this town. They have endorsed me and they describe what these meetings looked like and how strongly I stood up for them. If you go to my website and you like what you see, I encourage you to share it with friends in Ann Arbor. Share it on social media. Tell everyone that you know that I am somebody who stands up for what's right. I haven't mentioned it yet, but a lot of what you're saying in holding people accountable and urging elected leaders to remember who they serve, none of that can happen if the people don't know what's going on. And that is a big piece of what I have done as an elected official, is communication and public engagement, trying to alert people of what's going on. And one of the biggest things that I have done that no one thought to do before, not newspapers, not publications that have previously covered local politics, I publish voting charts. So you can see if there was an issue you cared about and you sent emails to every council member, you called us up and you told us your opinion and you told us how important it was and how much it mattered. You can go to my website and you can look at the voting chart and see where did they stand.
Mm.
You know,
she got the receipts.
When we were, oh yeah. I mean, it's gotten, in the beginning, I'll tell you something funny. In the beginning, I was relying on the city clerk for notes. I would wait until she published her minutes and then I would produce my charts, because we have a very good city clerk, very, very good. She takes her job seriously. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself to get it right. I thought she's the professional, she'll get it right. And then the first time I spotted a typo in her records and I reached out to her, she was very, very embarrassed. But I found a typo in her records. I realized we're all human. I can take notes in this meeting and I can make sure that I'm accurate, the same as the city clerk makes sure she's accurate. We now in our meetings sometimes we'll whisper to each other like, who did he vote no or yes? Like we look to each other because she recognizes that I am somebody who cares about the truth and I am somebody who is keeping a record as well. I think this matters because I noticed in my first election that people benefit from a lack of information.
That's right.
Politicians particularly, they are happy to tell you and pretend, oh, those folks, don't vote for them. They're for all the wrong things. They vote against all the good things. And that is almost never true. If you get into the weeds with the facts, then I can tell you, like, we crafted, like, not me, I voted against it, but those folks voted for this loophole to like line the pockets of investors. I mean, I can point, I have the receipts. I can show you what they did. And this didn't exist before. When I ran in 2018 and I challenged an incumbent, I wanted to find the receipts and it was hard. I was digging through meeting minutes. It was impossible. So what I have done in the last 3.5 years is I have created a resource for residents to see what we're doing, understand what we're doing, and hold us accountable. And I think that transcends policy. That's just how democracy is supposed to work. And democracy is not working as well because people don't know what's going on.
That's right. That is right. Look, you got to be informed and be informed. Everybody, when you're voting for someone that's going to serve you, serve the public, serve your neighbors, not themselves. You have to look at their voting history. You have to look at can you call them? If you have a public official where you can't pick up the phone and call, then they don't need to serve the public. If you can email a public official and it takes a year for him to get back to you or her to get back to you, they don't need to be a public official. If you're a public official that is lining your pockets, and y'all know how y'all do them backroom deals, somebody's getting something off of these developments. It ain't rocket science. It's 1 + 1 = 2. Very easy. Very easy. Ann Arbor needs real public servants. They need real elected officials who's going to do the right thing for the people and by the people. And I know for a fact that we have to push the reset button at Ypsi so we can hold hands together and try to work on problems together. The city of Ypsi and the city of Ann Arbor are two shining lights. And I know Ann Arbor shining a lot more than we are, but we are a strong, young-hearted city that want to do better like the next city. So if there's any type of negotiation or any type of communication that you can do once when you are reelected to even reach out to the sister city Ypsi, please do. I invite y'all back on the show, have some real conversations. Any type of town hall you'd like to do, I'd like to come and host it. I don't care what it takes. We have to get people talking again. And we have to get people doing research on what these politicians doing, how they're voting. This is very important because our votes aren't held, our votes aren't for sale.
They shouldn't be.
So all I can say, y'all, look, you really do need someone in office. And I do believe someone with integrity, transparent, someone who like to work for the people. And I think Ann Arbor City Council, Ward 4 has a best bet to have Elizabeth Nelson as a council person. Re-elect Elizabeth Nelson for Ann Arbor City Council. Y'all know what y'all need to do. Y'all heard what she said. I know we got more to talk about. And I'm sure that you want to find out more about her campaign. So I urge you, please support her. Please support her. And support those who serve the people and not themselves. Ms. Nelson, anything else you would like to say on the show before we let you go? I know it's a late evening. It's almost lunch. It's almost dinner time for me at 7. So I'd like to give you the last words.
Anybody who wants to join me in the 4th of July parade in Ann Arbor is welcome to join me. I'm looking forward to that. I've missed it because of COVID. I had for various reasons, this is going to be my first 4th of July parade. I'm excited.
So what time, do you know the time it starts, where you line up at, or do you have any information on that?
They can reach out to me through my website. There's a lot of contact information on my website. And that's a little bit of a frivolous last word, but I do want to say that I care about our democracy. I care about local elected leaders at this level being most closely connected to the people they serve. That is my fundamental philosophy about everything. And my openness to hearing people and listening means that bring me an agenda that is going to serve the needs of people who are not already served. That's most exciting to me. I can't tell you how excited I am when there's an opportunity like that. There's a story that I could tell that I thought about it when people were bringing me these housing issues, the rental issues, the Airbnb hollowing out supply, and investors who had so much power. Way back when I was in law school, my law school was in Baltimore, and we were in the inner city. And I volunteered with a tenant advocacy project. I'm just like 22 years old. I don't have any credentials particularly, but I was working alongside other volunteers who had been helped by that program, who had been living in really inadequate housing, bullied by landlords. And it was such a thrill to be able to call up these landlords and give them the little knowledge that I had with the confidence that I had, and help people who were seriously vulnerable and just didn't have a voice. Being a voice for people who don't feel like they have one, that's the thrill of my life. I'm not interested in building a network or a coalition of other powerful people. The opportunities here at this lowest level of government, this is the good stuff. This is the good stuff where we can really make a difference. The power that we have may be relatively small, but somebody comes to me with an issue in their neighborhood on the ground, we can address it. We can fix it. A lot of times, I will chase it down. I'll figure it out. This is why I tell people to go to my website and look at my endorsement page, because people talk about this. They talk about having reached out to me and me responding and us crafting solutions and figuring it out. This is the good work of government. It's not hanging out with other powerful people. It's serving the people.
She just dropped the mic, y'all. The voice for the voiceless. Miss Elizabeth Nelson, look here. We see you on the other side when you get reelected. We would like to invite you back on the show, please. And let's talk about more of your powerful work that you're going to do.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
All righty. And you let them other candidates know that don't be scared. I just text the temperature and see if you mean what you say and say what you mean. Once again, y'all, this is Tyrone Bridges, what I thought you knew, interviewing a star for Ann Arbor City Council. Re-elect her, Ward 4, Miss Elizabeth Nelson. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much.
All right. Have a good night. Peace.